Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 4.3a. This is our third and final section of the independence movement. This is where we're going to look at challenges that are facing, this is Zimbabwe obviously, so this is the third and final section. We're going to look at what challenges face them after independence. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe and explain the different types of challenges that Zimbabwe faced after independence. Their economic, cultural, political, and racial challenges that they experienced. So the first thing that we're going to address are economic challenges. So their 15-year civil war damaged the economy. Well, duh. I mean, anytime you have a civil war, there's going to be a damaged economy. So clearly their economy is in shambles. The trade sanctions took their toll. Many years of trade sanctions are going to not bring resources into the country. And so Zimbabwe needs to be reintroduced to the global market because it's been out of the global market for many, many years. The white minority still controls key components of the economy. All of that farmland, remember, Mugabe agreed in the Lancaster House Agreement to allow white minority to continue owning farmland for a specified time period for 10 years, I believe it was. So you still need minority support. So anything that the black majority wants to do in Zimbabwe, they're still having to get support from the white minority. So New Zimbabwe is still reliant on South Africa as it was before. So even though it's now a black majority run country under Mugabe's leadership, they're still heavily dependent on the white minority government in South Africa. And all of the reasons that are listed here, all of these together are the reasons why the new government could not address the needs of the people, like land redistribution and economic reform. They couldn't do it because all of these different things that had happened prior were not able, there were things that were beyond their control, and they were not able to address the economic, catastrophes facing them. And then over here, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about the Zimbabwean flag, because this is Zimbabwe's flag here, and just let you know what all the different symbols mean, the different colors and things like that, because that does shed a little bit of light about who Zimbabwe is and what they stand for. And secondly, in terms of cultural challenges, well, the society is deeply divided along race, class, ethnicity, and geography. Most nations on the planet have some issues with that, where the people on the east side of the country don't like the west side of the country, and the northerners don't like the southerners. And it's I think every country in the world really has this problem. Zimbabwe's not any different. But they had other challenges with race and class and ethnicity. Well, Zimbabwe's a new country, and it needs to identify itself. It needs to create an identity. And so what it does is that it goes back to its past, here with the symbols of the great Zimbabwe Empire, to showcase that their pre-colonial past, that this is what Zimbabwe is. It's not the colonization that we endured for several hundred years. It's the great empires of the past. So their flag, their money, coat of arms, coins, all have reference different things of Zimbabwe's great past. They even created 3 official languages. So English is still an official language, but Shona and Ndebele, the 2 largest ethnic groups that are living in Zimbabwe, their native languages are protected. So that is a cultural achievement. And of course, they try to move past their colonization ideals. So Zimbabwe tries to make its own identity and try not to, be so bogged down in its past. So it does try to throw off the chains of colonization and its cultural reinvention. Now, thirdly, we need to look at some political challenges that faced Zimbabwe after independence. Well, one of the biggest ones was still the fact that white people still owned the bulk of fertile farmland. That's where anything that's going to be grown that's worth selling is going to be grown on these white-controlled farms. And so that's a challenge because these farms need to be, redistributed to the majority of the people. And so this is a political problem that the new Zimbabwe government has to find out and fix. Mugabe tried to gain confidence of white commercial farmers, of which there's about 6,000. So he does try to gain the support of the white farmers. And how he does that is that he reassures not only farmers, but also white business owners that he would still remain as a capitalist and not as a socialist in his solution. And he largely did that. He really did, he wasn't more into socialism. So he did try to reassure white people that he would remain capitalist. And so the new government does see positive changes. And some of that, because the sanctions are gone, that's a positive change. There's no longer a draft for the war because there's no more war. So those 2 things in and of itself alleviate a lot of the political challenges because you don't have to worry about those things anymore. And in fact, the economy grew from 1980 to 1982 is evidenced right here. You see it on these tick marks. It grew by 24%. Now, unfortunately, the white minority was the majority beneficiary of this economic success, but it does show that in the first 2 years of Robert Mugabe's leadership that their economy grew. So it seems that political stability might be a possibility as well as economic boom. But you can clearly see from here that didn't happen. And fourth and last, the racial challenges that face this nation. Now, at the Lancaster House Agreement, they agreed to have a white minority control of 20% seats in the parliament. So from 1980 to 87, 20% of the seats in the Zimbabwean parliament are going to be controlled by the white minority. They cannot seize white-owned farm for 10 years. So from 1980 to 1990, the government will not be allowed to take control over white farms. They could buy it if they wanted to at market value, and that was the whole idea of willing seller, willing buyer. Now, of course, you know that not many white families did that, so literally they held control of most of the farmland until 1990. The key issue, land, still unfulfilled. That's not even going to be fulfilled until 1990, really. And as a result, white people still had a great amount of control politically and economically. Racism continued as white people maintained a privileged life, while black people were still poor. So even though it's now a black-run country with black majority-run country with Robert Mugabe in charge, nothing seemed to really change the first 10 years in the fact that there was still racism and the white people still had the largest control of politics and economic power. So this is becoming a real issue here. This is becoming a real question mark for black individuals in Zimbabwe about, okay, well, what exactly changed? And so that concludes the first half of challenges facing Zimbabwe. So can you describe and explain the different types of challenges like economic, cultural, political, and racial? If you can, pat yourself on the back. You did an amazing job. Now look for any activities for Lesson 4.3a and then complete that and then move on to Lesson 4.3b. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.